Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. My name is John Richardson, and I'm here tonight with Nathan Ogloff, who is the author of the Sapien Empire series of books. Welcome, Nathan. How are you doing?
I'm great, Richard. Or John. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
No problem, no problem. So, tell us a little bit about this book then. What's the sort of a description you gave me was like a cross between Dune and Mad Max. So, can you sort of tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so the whole premise behind the Sapien Empire is it's post-apocalyptic, and a lot of people have seen post-apocalyptic before. But the twist I have on it is the book series starts at the end of the post-apocalyptic era because civilization's coming back. They're starting to rebuild. So it's like Dune meets Mad Max because Mad Max has a lot of like the crazy sort of cars and vehicles that you see, and a lot of that just like grunge, rust, like
Yeah.
gas and fumes vibe. But it's like Dune because Dune's very complex. It has a lot of interesting world building. It has a lot of systems in place. Like there's the Bene Gesserit and the Spacing Guild and the Landsrat. That it's Dune can be quite complex in terms of its storytelling, and so I think my storytelling is also very complex because I got a lot of like systems and factions and people wanting this and that, and how
Oh.
does the main character have to contend with it all? So it's like those two combined in that sense.
Wow, that's interesting. So, um, the world itself, you've described it as post-apocalyptic and almost at the beginning of rebuilding, sort of thing.
Mhm.
So, do we have an idea of like population in terms of whether your story immediately takes place and the wider world itself, or is some parts of that still unknown?
Uh, so yeah, I do have an idea of the population. So basically, the whole planet at the start of the first series, the population's around like just 100 million people, which
Right.
sounds like a lot, but it's a like
It's
drastic
it's
shortfall compared
medieval
to
times, that is,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, pretty much. And in terms of the wider world, no, like the main character really doesn't know a lot about the wider world. Their world is pretty much just the Pacific Northwest, where I'm from, because that's where the story starts and takes place.
Ah,
So
yeah.
it's just that, and everything else beyond that is just like who knows what it's like at the moment. And then over the series, as they expand, you do start to gradually find out what is happening there.
Right, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Interesting is 100 million because as I was sort of alluding to, that's and you've probably researched well, is that's like the medieval levels of world population, so it's tiny, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it would be very sparse. Like I said, we have
Mm.
8 billion right now. So to go from that to just 100 million, it is going to feel very sparse and declined and like it's just empty, which is
Yeah,
kind of what Europe felt like after the Roman Empire collapsed, pretty much.
yeah, yeah. So, our protagonist then is called Shane, uh, Shindo.
Yeah, Shindo
Shindo.
Dacan.
Tell us a bit more about him and his story.
So Shindo's an interesting character. So he's when we first start out the book, he's like a bit young adult. He's 24, but he's very gifted in engineering and building like machines and gadgets and gizmos and all that stuff. And he's basically been employed by this warlord for the past 10 years, um, as his personal like. So his title is called the Machine, right? And he's just like that's his gift. He knows how to make machines, so he's able to helped the warlord make machines that allowed the warlord to rise up and conquer all these other warlords around him. And he's gifted in gadgetry, but the downside to that, or one of his flaws, is he has a hard time with people. He really struggles with like understanding and
Mm.
interacting with people. So navigating the world with that mindset isn't the easiest for him, but he does make the effort. He does attempt to work on himself as he's again having to deal with this warlord he's making machines for.
Mm.
at the
So what's
very yeah.
so what's his a day in the life of Shindo? What does he do when he gets up and has his, I don't know, gruel or cereal or toast even or whatever?
Yeah. Well, see, that's one of the things that's interesting is there wouldn't be any caffeine in this world because it all comes from tropical regions, and because it takes place in the Pacific Northwest, that's just not happening. So uh, he sleeps in a very basic sort of cot, little sort of private space in this larger shop called the shop garage, which is like his space within this fortress, so to speak, where he's just allowed to create and make his machines. And so he gets up,
Right.
works on whatever machines happens, occasionally has to tell the warlord about his progress or, give him updates. He's allowed free reign to walk around the fortress as he sees fit. But one of the interesting things is that at the beginning of the novel, he's feeling a lot of guilt from helping this warlord with his machines and um, wreaking all the damage he's had. So he wants to do this sort of project behind his back, just an effort to help people. And so he takes material and funds that the warlord thought he had just given Shindo just for his own machines, and he takes that and starts making these prosthetics in a factory to help people. Because the whole time, like, whenever he makes a machine, he needs a factory to like mass produce copies of it. And so, like, because he still has access to that factory, he does sometimes have to go there and talk to the foreman and say, "This is what we're gonna do." So it's a bit of machine making with a bit of doing stuff behind the warlord's back as he tries to find a bit of redemption in the earlier stages of the book.
Why does he need redemption?
He just feels guilt. He just feels like he's seeing a lot of. It's not just in like what he's known about, like this war that happened. There's a lot of how to describe this? It's what he sees in the greater city, right? It's because he does walk around like the city state town. It's what you can call it. It's like a small settlement. He sees just the wealth disparity and inequality. How this warlord has so much, and then everybody else at the bottom really just has so little and has to struggle, and resources are very limited. And so, he just walks around saying, "Well, this is in a sense the world I created. I have to do something to give back."
Right, I see. Okay, so with him helping the warlord and doing whatever the warlord does, which can't be good considering the called the warlord, then obviously he feels he needs to equalize the karma a little bit by doing some good.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Is there a deeper reason to that, or is that the reason?
I think it's a very surface level reason. I think it's because the whole series that I'm making, it kind of, I guess you could say, follows most of our trajectories on morality. So at first it's like there's black and white, good and bad, and like I don't like bad, I want to do good, I want to make the world better. But then as you explore it and you grow, it becomes a little bit more shades of gray. So
yes.
yes. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And so yeah, there's a surface level reason of just like I don't like this. He does want out, actually.
Yeah. So what's keeping him in?
Like, he can't just leave. He can't just drop everything and leave. There's really nowhere for him to go in the city state. He's also from this little small, I guess you could say, village near the city state, and he can't just go back there because he needs transport. And where's he going to get the transport? And plus, he doesn't also want to put other people in danger, because if he just leaves and they find out he went back to his compound, which is what they're called, that's going to potentially spell disaster. So it's not just
so the face is well known type of thing, and everybody will know it if he tried to leave, and it would be easy for him to hide anonymously, and it's too far as well. So you mentioned transport briefly, and we spoke a little bit about Mad Max. So what's the type of range of transport? I'm guessing it's quite limited.
Yeah, so like they have roads connecting these various city states in this like post-apocalyptic world, but they're not like paved roads; they're just dirt roads, and there's absolutely no access into the interior of the continent. So that's how transport's limited, and also they don't have access to oil because that's all gone. So they have to make something called biofuel, which is pretty much
Right.
just you get wheat and you get the oil out of that. But I mean, you can only grow so much wheat in so many fields, so
Yeah.
you
That's
need a
quite
lot of
limited.
wheat. Yeah, you need a lot of wheat to make so much fuel. So it's you're limited not only by road infrastructure but also by
Mm.
just access to gas, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. So so are these sort of settlements, I don't know, close together, or do we have some distant ones? Is kind of like where I'm going with this. I don't even know if I'm asking the right question, but you know what I
Well, it
mean.
depends on what you mean by
Yeah.
distant. I guess you can say in our world they're fairly close by. In terms of like in our world, they'd only be a couple of hours drive.
Yeah.
Um, but I would say they're distant in terms of it takes them a lot longer because the roads aren't as great and they can't go as fast. And um,
Well,
it's, I
so
mean, you're looking at like a day's journey by
a day's
car.
journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
would say that to me feels, I would say, fairly distant.
Yeah.
So distant from their perspective.
So who, when you're talking about biofuel, who is actually in charge of that? Is it the warlord?
Oh, I would say that the warlord is in charge of pretty much everything.
Everything,
But I mean,
right?
anybody who's manufacturing biofuel, like you're gonna have like a specific overseer of that's just their specific job. Like you need someone to look at accounting or um, making sure a building's not going to fall apart. Yeah, but I mean, obviously they'll have to answer directly to the warlord.
Okay, I think I kind of caught something there. You were talking
Okay.
about, I don't know, was it involving inspections or something about buildings
Oh
to make
no,
sure?
like infrastructure. So I mean, there's like if you're building something, you're going to have somebody who's in charge of like the specific site, and that's just like their realm of control and authority, and that's just what they focus on to do that. But then
Yeah, yeah,
there's a
yeah.
yeah.
But you've got that sort of stuff happening. You've got, uh, I'm not going to call it building regulations, but because civilization's rebuilding, right? Is that part of it?
Yeah. So like how it works is in order to like for it to make sense is I have a lot of these like city states that are basically remnants of what used to exist, but they're like sort of embers of civilization because they understand basic things like what money is and what an
Mm.
economy is and buying goods and exchanging it for money. And then sometimes you take some of that money as taxation that the government uses and basic like foundational principles for rebuilding any civilization. I don't know if you've watched Silo on Apple TV.
Do you know what? I've been meaning to watch that for absolutely ages. Tell
Okay,
me.
so
Go on then.
yeah, it's pretty good, but it takes place in an underground silo, and then it's
Hmm.
in this bunker. There's like 144 levels to the silo, and it is considered post-apocalyptic sci-fi. But I mean, it's sort of the same idea there that is sort of in a sense a ember of civilization because they have like a mayor and they have a police and then they have like mechanics that work on the generator systems that keep the silo powered and they keep the water running and the temperature regulation and the air regulators and all that working. So there is stuff like that. But then I think, no, what's another good example? Like The Last of Us, where it's just sometimes you have post-apocalyptic, or like The Road, where it's post-apocalyptic, but there are no embers of civilization. It's just like
Right.
random
Yeah.
people doing hunters and gatherers. There's that too. So there's that range of post-apocalyptic that does exist. So my like these city states are a lot closer to like what you think of if you think like Silo from
Yeah.
Apple TV.
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay, so that's the sort of era we're hitting at. So
Mhm.
in that way, things are improving. So whilst that's improving, what is there anything getting worse?
Well, when he starts rebuilding civilization, one of the things about rebuilding civilization or setting yourself a goal of I want to improve, I want to do better. It doesn't just happen. There's a reason that things decay. And
Yeah.
a lot of what I try to articulate in my work is that every solution creates their own problems. And better is a lot more like our world's complicated, and the complicated problems require complicated solutions. And that's especially going to happen as like he rebuilds and problems that just arise. And it's like, well, what do we do now? This is something we couldn't have seen. How do we tackle this problem? So, I mean, life gets better for the common man, but I mean, also there's issues that come up, and then the main characters are like, well, we got to tackle this and solve it if we're going to hold on to what we've already built. So
Hmm.
that just keeps happening throughout the books for sure.
Right. Okay. So there's nothing sort of like a, while civilization has grown, there's no real external massive threat or anything like that. It's just people.
Yeah, yeah. There's okay. So in terms of external threat, it's not like an asteroid or aliens, but
No.
in the second book, and I guess I'm not really spoiling it because the second book's already out there. It's basically in the second book in the series, as he's rebuilding civilization, he encounters another civilization also kind of doing the same thing, but they have a different way of doing it. And so now it's like, well, this is a force in the world. How do we contend with it?
Hmm. You're talking about Shindo and him building machines.
Mhm.
Yeah. I haven't read your book, and I do apologize. So,
That's okay.
but can you tell me then about some of the machines that you've got him working on, and how did you write it without going into like engineering lecture detail?
Well, I'm unfortunate because I'm not an engineer, so I would have to do way too much research to get that amount of detail.
Brilliant.
What's the alarm?
Oh no, that was just like a sort of thumbs up type of thing because you did
Oh,
the, well, you've answered the question. Like, first of all, I'm not an engineer, so you wouldn't get that from me. I thought that was quite amusing. So, yeah.
okay, yeah. But I mean, how do I give just enough detail for it to sound like I've done enough research without going into like a full-on technical manual.
Mm.
So, I mean, whenever I'm describing, like I describe the shop garage sometimes, and I'll say like vats of hydraulic fluid, a forge, a planning schematic table, shelves for like nuts, bolts, fasteners, like stuff like that. But you don't really need to go into more detail on that. So one of the machines I describe is I just say it's called a ghost flame tank, and I say it shoots out like an invisible fire that burns, but if you don't know what's going on, it just seems like it's causing chaos, and it's because it's a methane fire. Um, and that's really all the detail I go into. And so from that, really, you can actually piece together like, is this possible? And you can look up methane fire and go, oh, this is actually a thing. Okay, this is viable.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that's how I do it.
Okay. So you talk about making prosthetics all the time. Is there something that's causing this requirement for prosthetics?
Well, I mean, it's a very dangerous world. So I mean,
Yeah.
people work industrial jobs, and then like there's no safety regulations, so they occasionally injure themselves, and then once they can't work, they're just out on their luck, out on the streets. There's no welfare system whatsoever, and so yeah, and so I mean, it's a basic like I think it's where you notice there's a need, and then he notices he's got a skill to fill that
To
need.
fit
So I
that
mean,
need. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, something like if you're having a relationship advice is, and it's not your niche, and somebody's in a bad relationship, you can't really help them. But if you notice that they have a limb missing, and you know how to make stuff like that, you know to make very intricate stuff and stuff that works and stuff that feels like a full prosthetic in a sense, like an arm feels like it's like an arm you can grasp, a leg really supports your weight. Then you go, oh, like I see that, I empathize with that, I want to make their position better because that's what empathetic people do. oh, I can make something for it. So, like I said, he just sees this opportunity and leaps at it, combined with his own situation of, I'm sick and tired of this world I'm living in.
Right. So that's a fantastic answer. Thank you. So the other thing I need to ask you then is, do you have anything else to add about your book at all?
You guys should all read it because you're gonna love it and they're gonna be blown away and they're gonna be like, Nathan, I want more of this stuff. And I'll be like, I got more of it right now.
Brilliant. Oh, I do have one more question, actually.
Sure.
So this harks back to the actual title of the book.
Mhm.
So the Sapien Empire. Who called it that, and does that name get used in the book itself?
No. So I guess you can say I came up with the novel or the name when I was first writing this novel and getting into the idea of writing a novel, and it was just in a whim of like what appeals to me. So I called it the Sapien Empire because you got to think about empires in the past and think about sort of like what they were built around. So I mean, the Aztecs were an empire of blood, the Romans were an empire of gold. British, you could say, were an empire of the sea because they had a very strong naval presence. And I've always liked these stories about somebody rising up and then going out and really just seizing life by the balls and just expanding. And I said, okay, well, this is kind of like an empire for people, like the common people, for the sort of greater human good, so to speak, right? And so I said, I'm going to call it, well, the human empire. It doesn't really have a good appeal to it. Hey, let's take the Latin name for our species, Homo sapiens, sapien, drop off the S, the Sapien Empire. Ooh, I kind of like the ring of that. And so that's how I came up with the title.
Right. Okay. All right. Wonderful. Well, everybody, that's Nathan Ogloff. He is the author of the Sapien Empire series of books. Thank you, Nathan, for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, John.